So, King Kong vs. Godzilla. I have one thing to say, at least Godzilla vs. King Kong that comes out next year has got to be better than this. Hello, I am the Greek Geek because I'm Greek and indeed a geek. And now I'm back onto reviewing my Godzilla movies leading up until the release of Godzilla King of the Monsters next month. With the plot, I think it's important for me to outline what the plot is in this movie. Basically, a pharmaceutical company goes to an isolated island in the Pacific somewhere to capture King Kong and bring him back to Japan in order to gain fame, fortune, and publicity and get more attention from the media. Meanwhile, a US sub is messing around in the ocean and they accidentally crash into an iceberg, therefore releasing Godzilla. So this continues on from Godzilla Raids Again, where Godzilla at the end of the movie is frozen and then left there. This submarine somehow crashes into an iceberg. I wonder if this submarine was called the Titanic. And then the two monsters clash in an epic battle, or not so epic, depending how you look at it. I don't remember much about the characters in this movie. The ones that stick out to me is that CEO or the pharmaceutical company sticks out to me. There's this chief on the island who tries to, I think he's trying to give off some kind of intimidating stare to the guys that get to the island to try and intimidate them, but it's just this really weird and awkward look that he's given him. It is actually quite hilarious. He keeps that up for like all of his screen time. And those were two of the other only characters that really kind of stuck out to me. There's these two guys that do go to the island. I think they're kind of the main characters, and one of them, there's this whole scene where he's somehow invented this really strong string that doesn't break, and he demonstrates this to his friends or family. I can't remember who it is. And he's like standing on the ledge of his house, and he's just kind of awkwardly standing there demonstrating how it doesn't break. And I'm pretty sure it does not play into the plot at all, and that scene goes nowhere. So good job. Acting. Not so great, in my opinion. I don't know much about the Japanese characters and how well they're acting. They are acting over the top and in a comedic kind of way, but that's what this movie's going for, a less serious tone. I'll get to that. But I know for a fact the American actors, their line delivery is awful. It's not very well done at all.
18 degrees? It can't be. There can't be a warm current running in the Arctic Sea. Check that temperature.
Yes, sir.
Captain, I see a strange light behind an iceberg. Straight ahead.
They just don't seem invested in what they're doing. They just talk about things and just the most monotone voice. Ugh. Compared to the previous two movies, this one is a very comedic tone. The first Godzilla and the second, very serious in tone. This one is definitely lighter and a lot more comedic. They did this in order to try and get to a wider demographic, and from what I could tell, it actually worked. This movie made quite a bit of money, both in Japan and in the US, I think. So it worked. They reached the wider demographic. There's an underlying theme that companies would do anything to try and get attention and fame towards their companies and that kind of thing. The over-the-top nature of it, which is what Japanese companies did at the time. They tried to do things super over the top, trying to get as much attention as possible. And that's what this movie is going for. It's almost a satire of what the Japanese television industry was at the time. Special effects, these effects are not special. You've got the same kind of suits that they wear in all Godzilla movies pretty much. But these suits look particularly bad. In the first movie and the second movie, they looked alright, but in this one, they're just really bad. Like, Godzilla's fins look very, very flappy, and King Kong just looks absolutely horrendous. And his eyes look so weird. Like, if you look at his eyes, like, they're cold and lifeless and express no emotion. He must have seen some shit back in the day. In this movie, they also try their hand at using stop motion, and it works just as well as you'd expect. There's a fight with a giant octopus early in the movie, and that looks pretty bad. And there's one snippet of Godzilla jumping up on his tail like a kangaroo and smacking King Kong with his legs. It does not look good. And with King Kong's goofy look, he does also have a very goofy kind of run. I think the Japanese actor was trying to go how an ape would kind of run, but it just looks very weird. It's a shame Andy Serkis wasn't acting at the time. The action in this movie is fantastic. fantastically bad. Although I will admit it is a lot more interesting than Godzilla vs. Anguirus in Godzilla Raids Again. There's two fights in the film. The first fight, they kind of size each other up and fight for a bit, and King Kong realizes he's outmatched. It's a weird scene because they fight each other and then Godzilla uses his atomic breath on King Kong. King Kong realizes that he's no match because Godzilla has the high ground.
I have the high ground!
King Kong gives up and they both just go their separate ways, only to come back and clash later on in the movie. But when they fight, it does look very lame. King Kong just kind of throws rocks at him and throws Godzilla around a bit. Godzilla has the advantage most of the fight. But it's like the people that made this film realized that King Kong would have really no way of matching Godzilla. They gave King Kong lightning powers. Yeah, you heard me correctly. King Kong has lightning powers. He absorbs lightning and can discharge it through his hands, and that's how he tries to gain an advantage on Godzilla. I don't think they're going to include that in the new movie coming out in 2020. Things that I liked about this movie, not so much. I did quite enjoy the comedic tone this movie was going for. It did make it enjoyable, and some characters were actually good to laugh at. That was basically all I enjoyed with this movie. I did enjoy the fight scenes just for the goofiness as well, but not much to enjoy here, for me at least. Things I didn't like though is that the suits look kind of bad, the acting is pretty bad, the dialogue, yep, pretty bad. Stupid things happen in this movie, and scenes that are brought up that don't go anywhere ultimately. Bit frustrating. So do I recommend you watch this movie? No, not unless you're a die-hard Godzilla fan or you just want to watch this to compare it to the movie that's coming out next year. There are small things to enjoy. Like if you're a huge Godzilla fan, then yes, you probably will enjoy it. If you're just a casual moviegoer or you just have a casual interest in Godzilla movies, then you can probably give this one a miss. You're not going to miss that much with this movie. Alrighty, so I'm back on track when it comes to reviewing Godzilla movies. So thank you again. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. For publicity, they go there to capture King Kong for publicity. Oh shit, that's a hard word. Publicity. They go there to try and capture King Kong for publicity's sake. Shit.